Okay, get back to the nitty gritty here. Just cleaning this up, because I know everybody's coming in. They already thinking what is going on here. Oh man. Yeah, now look, there's always a jackass. There's always a jackass. That's something, sometimes I'll be thinking that maybe there'll be a situation where there's not a jackass. You know what I'm saying? Apparently, you could be smart in some things and dumb in others. Yeah, I'm getting to the nitty gritty, that's why they like, yo, this person, when I catch up to them, I'm about to curse them out because you know you didn't threw the whole thing off now. You didn't threw this whole thing off. Now we gotta wait, at least till some of the people come back in. Right when we was just about to sink in. We was just about to sink in when we get cut off. Nah, someone called my phone, and cut us off. But let's wait. We'll wait for a few more people. We'll wait for a few more people to get it back in here, man, before we get back to the topic. So we was right at uh the original family, right? Black, brown, and yellow, right? And the colored family, right? Where you got uh white, half original, and red, right? And see, like I said, over the years, I've heard a lot of various, things people say about that. You know what I mean? Like there's no such thing as really half original. You know what I'm saying? Uh, well, it really only matters what the father is. As long as the father is original, then the baby's original. Uh, you know, black is dominant, etc., etc. Yeah, nah, I just put it on. That's what took me a little minute. It's like let me put the do not disturb on, so we don't get too much more craziness here. You know what I'm saying? Especially right when we get into the nitty gritty, right? So I've heard these various things over the years. So right now, what I have today, right, what we're gonna continue on with, all of that was leading up to. Uh, I got a little what's in it here for us today. Hold on, how did I bring this up? And this, what happened? Hold on, I think I got it. I think I got it. Yeah, I got the tablet. Look, you're gonna see in a minute. I got it. But that right there fucked up my whole setup. That, like I said, I've been trying to get on since 8 something, right? Took me all this time to get some things here set up. And then it all got smashed. So let's see. Magic Card Chemist. There we go. So we got a little video here today, right? We got a little video here today where we're gonna illustrate something that I've been saying the entire time. You know, in reference to half original people, you know what I'm saying? And you know, what is the various things that happen. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of times, you know, what I've always said is that the half original people that we see are the ones that identify with us. But it's other half original people that identify, right, with their color family. And we don't know them because they don't come around and say that they half original. Just like you got some of them that just blend in and they just say they black. Right? If you don't ask them, they won't tell you. But you have ones that go and blend in, right, with their colored family, right, and specifically don't say nothing, because it would be more difficult for them to blend in over there. So this right here is the story of give y'all a little preview of what we're going to see, right? This is T's Hot Mess History, right? So shout out to T. You know what I'm saying? This is let's give T a like over here. You know what I'm saying? This is a story here. Like the whole thing, it was you know, she started off with this. I guess this is a TV show series or something right here, and okay, Julie TV. Hold on. Let's start real quick. Let's because now I see what your question is. So you said from black to brown 200 years, from brown to yellow 200 years, then from yellow to white 200 years. Now look, we say from black to brown, but what's happening is it takes 200 years to get rid of all of the black seeds on Patmos. You see, when they get there, it already tells you that it's black and brown. Right? So it didn't take 200 years to create the brown man. It took, remember, the whole process is separate the brown from the black and graft it into white by destroying the black. So to go through that whole process of destroying the black in that population is 200 years. And then, you see what I mean? So now by the time the 600 years is gone or is over, all of the original people have been eliminated from the population. You said you met an Asian online who has knowledge of himself. He never called himself a half original, but he never calls himself God either. Well, what Asian, what is he? You know, Asians is you know, like you got Japanese people, right, that is whiter than every European. You know what I'm saying? And then you got uh, uh, the people in South Asia, like the south of India, even where you know some of them is nobody on this live stream right now as dark as them. You see what I mean? So that's a who, I don't know who you talking about, right? But we're gonna get into this story right here, right? This is the story, right? I've heard of this guy many times, but I never heard this part of his story, right? This is Mr. Richard T. Greener. You know what I'm saying? I first came across his name, uh, looking up things about W.E.B. Du Bois. Because that's W.E.B. Du Bois was one of the first people to graduate from Harvard too. But anyway, this brother right here, right, was the first black man to graduate from Harvard. You know what I'm saying? And apparently in this TV show, the topic of his life is barely, they barely scratched the surface. He's mentioned, but there's some very interesting things, right, in his life story that illustrate illustrate the things we've already been building on. You know what I mean? Especially when you're dealing with, like I said, the black, brown, and the yellow, right, and then the white, and then from the white to the red, or the white to the half original, to the red to the colored, right? So that's the way I got it, right? Is that there's 6 human families on the planet Earth, and that's the 6. You said your point transcends color, but goes into the knowledge one has. Your genes are finite. Your knowledge, subsequently, is infinite. Am I wrong? I mean, probably not, but I don't really understand it. You gotta clarify the question a little bit more. Like, what's the point that's transcending the color? But we're gonna come back to some of this because we're not finished, you know, building on this. You know what I mean? It's because, like I said, there's gonna be some very interesting things here. You know what I'm saying? So look, let's let's uh let's go ahead. We're gonna see if we can get this screen a little bit bigger, right? And let's start this story right here. Somebody tell me, because this is a little different system I got set up here again today. So make sure if you can hear and all of that when it starts up. We don't hear sound, so let's.
Gilded Age, Season 3, Episode 3, Mrs. Kirkland proudly mentions her nephew being the first black man to graduate from Harvard when she's bragging about her family's pedigree to the Scotts, a family she deems as beneath her because Arthur was born into slavery and frankly the entire family has skin that is just too dark for her preference. Well, the Scotts are fictional, but the first black man to graduate from Harvard wasn't. The real man behind that reference was Richard Theodore Greener, and the tragic trajectory of his family reveals how colorism and the pursuit of whiteness can corrupt generations. Now, I have discussed Greener's daughter in a previous video, Belda Costa, his daughter who chose to pass as European and became a very successful librarian, the librarian for J.P. Morgan, who may or may not have had an affair with him, but she did have an affair with a very famous
Cancer care isn't just about treating the disease. It's also about helping people live well during and after.
Did have an affair with a very famous and very married art historian. There's always talk of whether black or partially black people who choose to pass as white or hide their black heritage did so as a means of survival, and I'm 100% sure that many of them did for that reason, and I don't think that it's fair to judge those 1890s people by today's standards. But were there also some who passed as white simply because they were racist and or colorist? Yes. And that brings us to today's story about another one of Harvard's first black graduates' offspring. And he is a neo-Nazi who is alive today.
Now you see this right here? See, this is why this focuses the mind, son. Did you just hear her say that the great-grandson of the first black man to graduate from Harvard, right, is a neo-Nazi? See, look, this is what I'm telling you. A lot of people, they wonder why. Right? But when Allah said no white women, that wasn't just, see, this doesn't happen. See, you got a lot of brothers, nah, you know, I'm the original man and black is dominant. See, this doesn't happen when you have children with black women. It doesn't happen. See, this is what I mean when I say, when people say, oh, if the baby is half original, it's still black. See, you telling me that one of the parents don't count. You telling me that 23 of the chromosomes don't count. See, this is not only that, right? But what about the ideas? You understand what I mean? I'm saying, like, right now, right, we 5%, right? Some of us got babies, right? You know, this is what I'm talking about, the idea, right? That, you know, look. See, I tell my kids this, right? I tell my kids this. It's that, see, if you fuck up, you turn me into 85%. If you don't stick with the idea, like, yeah, you good in terms of the you know, genetically, right? You came from the black man and the black woman, but see, if you don't, you know, and then look, it's not just him. If I don't, right, pass on that idea that we the 5%, this is our culture. This is how we live. This is how we eat. See, because there's other things that's passed on. So other people, your name might be Charles. You know what I'm saying? Then, you know, you do whatever is the history of that name Charles, right? Or you might have a name that come out the Bible or whatever. That's the history of it. See, the people in my family, right? Like, see, my my granddaughter, right? If they ask her like, yeah, we use your name like that, how you? See, if she never got the idea, if she never, she don't know what that means. She doesn't know that, see, your father had his name for a particular reason, right? And then you got it from him. I'm not saying that our kids is gonna wind up being MAGA, right? But I am saying that this is how far, when they say the fruit don't fall far from the tree, that's not always true. You said the guys need to acknowledge this book by Dr. John L. Johnson, a black man about the Negro rulers of Scotland and the British Isles. So now I don't read stuff like that. I don't, I don't that kind of stuff. The black nobility and all of the stuff in Europe, like look. Some stuff is devilishment. They see every great thing that somebody accomplished. I don't want to be down with that. See, like Yakub made the devil. See, to me, that's what I'm saying. It just seemed like there's this rush to try to, put the black man in all these great and noble situations, right? But the thing is, here's the problem. You always trying to put them in those great situations in the Caucasian world. See, people is always trying to figure out how the black man was still ruling during the time that it tells you Yakub gave him the power to rule the earth. But you trying to figure out how, really, the King of England was black and Queen Elizabeth, hey, come on, man. Then where all these white people come from? Rather we dealing with the science of Yakub or any other science, right? Where all these people come from then? So I don't read that kind of stuff. I hear it, people, they acknowledge. But look, let's get back. Let's roll this back a touch, right? And let's get back to this.
By today's standards. But were there also some who passed as white simply because they were racist and or colorist? Yes. And that brings us to today's story about another one of Harvard's first black graduates' offspring. And he is a neo-Nazi who is alive today in 2025. He is Charles Bausman, the great-grandson of Richard Theodore Greener. While Richard Greener's first family with his wife, Genevieve, passed for white and disappeared into white society, he also had a...
You heard that? Did everybody catch that? Now look, how many people have seen when people do the DNA test? Like, I'm sure you've seen, like, for instance, remember when they told, did anybody see when Quincy Jones took the DNA test on Henry Louis Gates' show, and he was 50% white? Henry Louis Gates, 50% white too. The genetic, whatever they add up, he was 50% white. And a lot of, black people was being shocked. You know what I'm saying? Or look, I saw them do it to the Puerto Rican kids one time. In New York, they came in with a DNA test, right? And these kids, they haven't been exposed, whatever. But you could tell it was fucking with their whole mentality. Like they when they DNA test came back and it was like, yeah, nah, you don't got no Taino on you. You 80% sub-Saharan African. Yo, they showed them on the news. They was like, yeah, I don't know. I gotta go home and talk to my parents about this. Now look, it be white people. But that same token, I seen one, look, where a white dude, he comes, he shows his mother like, yo, look, we got black. And his mom's like, what? Like, no, don't say that. You see what I'm saying? See, now don't say that. This is what can happen. This is what can happen. This is why Allah, look, now, I don't generally get into that, but we see what the result has been for us as a nation, right? The people that didn't listen to the no dope part. We see that what that's done to us as a nation, and how it's still affecting us, right? Anytime we have an event, right? All you gotta do is look at Facebook, right? And you will see why Allah said no dope. See, that's what I'm saying. This is an example right here. This is just an example. This is an ample sample for example, right? Of why Allah said no white women. I'm saying let's keep checking it out. And I said he had one family. Check this out. T's Hot Mess history on this. This is a short version on the channel. She's got a longer version that's like an hour where she speaks on his first family, where he marries a woman who can pass for white. That was her daughter. Her daughter with him is the woman they was talking about in the beginning with J.P. Morgan. You know what I'm saying? So he had a first family. He had a first family that they went and passed for white, blended into white society. Hey, look, right now, if you got a chance, right? If you somewhere where you have the power to do that, right? Google a picture, right? Google a picture of Diana Ross with her grandkids. Right? And then right after you do that, so you probably don't even got to Google this one because you already got an idea. Look, I don't deal with this. So whatever Kim Kardashian's mom's name is, whatever her mother's name is, Google her with her grandkids. And you'll see how this thing works.
Second family that would produce an even more shocking legacy. During his diplomatic service in Russia from 1898 to 1905, Richard took a Japanese common-law wife named Mishi Kawashimi. Together, they had 3 children, including a daughter they called Michio, whom they nicknamed Olive. Unlike with his first family, Richard maintained a relationship with his Russian-born children. He corresponded regularly with Olive until his death in 1922, and these children carried on his name, unlike the family with his wife, who chose to change their last name from Greener to Green and erase his memory. His daughter Olive eventually settled in America and had her own family, but the seeds of racial confusion, hatred, and identity crisis that had plagued the Greener family line would manifest in devastating ways decades later through Olive's bloodline, particularly her grandson. Olive's grandson was Charles Bausman, born in 1964 in Greenwich, Connecticut. Charles enjoyed every privilege that American society could offer, attending Phillips Exeter Academy, Wesleyan University, and Columbia University. His father, Jack Bausman, was a Harvard graduate and an accomplished journalist who served as the Moscow bureau chief for the Associated Press during the Cold War. And Charles,
eBay, as always, guaranteed authentic. Let me guess.
eBay.
That's the sound of an American oil company, hard at work. Want to be a part of it? Listen up.
Hello, my name is Adam.
rather than simply rejecting any black heritage or letting it fade off into obscurity, would go on to embrace the most extreme forms of white supremacy. In 2014, Charles, the great-grandson of Harvard's first black graduate, founded Russia Insider, a pro-Putin website that would devolve into a platform for anti-Semitic propaganda and neo-Nazi content. By 2018, when he moved to Lancaster, Pennsylvania, Charles was openly promoting Holocaust denial and white nationalist ideology. He published a 6,000-word anti-Semitic manifesto called "It's Time to Drop the Jew Taboo," which even RT, which was formerly Russia Today, denounced as hate speech. And just for context, RT is Russia's state-controlled news network that regularly hosted Charles Bausman as a commentator for years. Many Western countries consider RT as a dangerous propaganda outlet. So for RT to say that Charles was being too extreme, that was really saying something. Charles's descent into extremism accelerated as he began collaborating with prominent neo-Nazi figures. He attended the 2016 National Policy Institute conference organized by Richard Spencer, where attendees threw Nazi salutes. He hosted neo-Nazi rap.
So that's getting more into his story if you're interested in exactly how he's racist, I guess. If you're interested in that, you could check the rest of this out on T's Hot Mess History. Shout out to T. But this is what can happen. Now look, we got something else here. We're gonna keep it rolling, right? We're gonna keep it rolling right along. My battery is getting a little bit down, but we're gonna see if we can get. But let's see if we can get a little piece of this shit. Hold on. Let me see. Hopefully we don't get cut off, y'all. Let's see. You said late